and we're starting with Holly Ashkanajad from
the Civil Rights Compliance and Investigation.
a big name. And then it's going to be Rebecca from Academic Outreach and Innovation. So you do.
That no one heard.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Loud enough?
Yes.
Clear? All right, can everyone hear me now? Can the folks online hear me? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you're struggling to hear me, just raise your hand and I'll try and speak up. Again, my name is Holly Ashkanajad. I'm the Director of the Office of Civil Rights Compliance and Investigation, formerly the Office for Equal Opportunity. Our new acronym is CRCI, so I'm going to use that language. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some information with you all today. I really just wanted to give you a brief overview of some things that are coming your way in the area of civil rights compliance and investigation. For folks who aren't super familiar with my office, congratulations. We are a central intake office for grievances of discrimination, discriminatory harassment, sexual harassment, and sexual misconduct on campus. But we are also there to provide technical guidance to all employees of the university about our civil rights obligations as an institution. One of the key things that we keep sharing with folks is that there's no way that one office or one person can change campus climate and culture. We really rely on all of our partners throughout the university to share that message with folks. One major change that is coming our way is we have a new draft of Executive Policy 15. That's WSU's policy prohibiting discrimination, sexual harassment, and sexual misconduct. It's a joint effort between our office and the EP15 working group, which is one of the campus climate and culture working groups, led by Judy McDonald, Brandon Chapman, and Candace Chappelle until she had to step down recently. There are a couple of major changes that are happening. There will be communications plans coming out to everybody, but just wanted to give you a heads up first. The two kind of key areas we were working on in that policy is one, just making sure that it's consistent with our state laws and regulations and federal laws and regulations. So there are some pretty major changes made there. And then second, clarification for our university community on what the policy means, how it applies. A couple of key factors that we changed in it were creating a much broader list to identify the different types of complaints that can come to our office. We heard from a lot of folks they didn't realize that they could share a concern with us. We want to make sure it's really clear that people are welcome and that there's a clear identification both in a definition and an example of the types of concerns that can come to us. We've also clarified the different rights and responsibilities of participants in our investigation so that folks know when they're participating in a process through our office, what their role is, what rights they have, what they might need to do to actually engage with our office. We've also identified roles for basically everybody at the university in helping us ensure that we have a non-discriminatory work and academic environment. As faculty members, you all have a big part to play in that. You're on the front lines with students. So you've all had reporting requirements. The only exceptions for that have been laid out in our former policy, typically applying to folks who have statutory confidentiality. So as an employee, you're required to take a test or training every 5 years or so that talks about your reporting requirements. A lot of people don't remember that until something comes up that really triggers the need for it. We did carve out an exception for researchers who are engaged in research related to discrimination, sexual harassment, and sexual misconduct. We wouldn't have asked you to share that information before anyway, but now it's written down that you do not have to. With that reporting requirement, you also may have a Campus Security Authority reporting requirement. Campus Security Authority is a requirement for institutions under the Clery Act, which is about campus safety and security. We are initiating a new process for our Campus Security Authority. So some of you may actually be CSAs and not know it. This year, if you are a CSA, faculty often is, especially where they have responsibilities for a student organization as a faculty advisor. You're going to be receiving communications from our office about what that means to be a CSA. There will be a landing page available to you with quick information about what your reporting requirements are. The reports for CSAs are typically linked to criminal activities. We have a form that you can go to on that website that's going to automatically submit any report to the appropriate campus security office or police department. And the role of that is really to count statistics. So there's some leeway for you on what you're deciding to report. And we're preparing a new training that'll be available to you so you can take that training if you are identified as a CSA. Again, if you are identified as a CSA, you'll get an email from our office letting you know that that's the case. With all those reporting requirements, we really do want you to feel comfortable and confident with sharing that information with our office, meaning that you know what's going to happen to the information, that you feel safe that the people who are making those reports to you and that you're sharing that information with us, that they're going to be happy with the results that come. So with that, I just want to encourage everyone to think about whether or not it may be beneficial for your department, for your graduate students, for undergraduate students to request a training directly from our office. We regularly come out and provide trainings to departments specifically. We can touch on specific issues to your department, but we can also talk about what it looks like to engage with these processes, what happens to those reports when they come to our office. If you aren't in a position where you can schedule those types of trainings, I know everyone's super busy, we also have a whole bunch of scheduled trainings already available. We have them targeted towards specific audiences. So there's a targeted training for faculty, targeted training for supervisors. Those are available through the HRS Skillsoft training tool. We also have targeted trainings to undergraduate students, graduate students, as well as a Title IX focused training for students. Those are available to register through our website. And then upcoming, shortly, we're just working out the technical details. There will be webinars available to employees and students to take at their own leisure. The goal of those also is to help folks that want to have, say, graduate or undergraduate student staff or lab members taking the sexual harassment training. There'll be an option at the end of the quiz for them to list who their supervisor is, and you'll get an email letting you know they've taken the training. So if you want to make that a requirement, you can. The other major change that's happening at the University for Civil Rights Compliance is a pretty big overhaul of our affirmative action plan. Higher ed institutions are required to have an affirmative action plan under our federal laws. The goal, though, of having a plan is to make sure that it's really effective and that it meets the needs of our community. We're rewriting the narrative with a stakeholder committee that's currently made up with partners from all across our system. The goal is to make sure the narrative is consistent with WSU's mission and values, but also to clearly identify specific goals and action items to help us meet those recruitment goals. If anybody is interested in participating on that, we would love to have you. You can contact me directly. The easiest way to reach me, so you don't have to spell my last name, is just crci@wsu.edu. I get all those emails. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, again, we're really lucky to have a lot of good partners across the system. We want to collaborate with you all. So if Faculty Senate or faculty have any interest in the area of civil rights compliance and would like to work with our office on a project, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're already working with some faculty members. For example, we have a project that we're working on this year with Todd Butler and the College of Arts and Sciences that's designed to help supervisors and department chairs manage these really complex cases when you have an investigation within your department or competing complaints within a department that can be really difficult to manage as a supervisor. So we're giving some training and expertise there. We've also worked last year to explore whether or not we could have an additional Deputy Title IX coordinator for the university that was a faculty representative, something we'd really like to see happen. There have been some delays on that because of the change in provost leadership, but we would like to reopen those conversations. And if folks have any ideas or thoughts on that, we would really welcome that. Finally, I just want folks to know that we do have a new feedback form on our website. So if you have feedback for us, and you don't want to tell me, you can submit it there and you can submit information anonymously. We want to get as much feedback as possible to make sure that we are meeting your needs. With that, there's also a student feedback committee that will be started. If you happen to know of a student who has a lot of interest in these areas and might want to share their opinion about how the university is handling student and employee complaints related to discrimination and harassment, send them our way. That's all for me.
Questions? We need to mic. That's one request we make from other campuses. Sometimes we don't very well.
Hi, I just had a quick question on what are you doing about online resources? So for instance, when I type in sexual harassment on Pullman campus, I get 5 things that come up. Your office might be the 6th or 7th. You know, ideally, I would think it would be first. Those resources it takes me to first might say, contact your office. They don't necessarily. And typically when you're looking for those resources, you're not in the state of mind where you want to sort through 5 different locations before you find what you need. So is there something in the works to address kind of that issue? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, so there's 2 things. One, we actually used to be the first search result, and that changed recently, and we weren't sure why. And so we are working with Webcom to try and change that. The second thing that is of note, though, there's so many resources on campus and in our communities, and so the goal is really to try and funnel information to the best way possible. So we're working really closely with campus partners to make sure that information, maybe if it doesn't get to us first, it's always coming to us. Student Aware Network is a really great, they changed it. Student Care Network is a really great resource, an example of that. We work super closely with them. We meet on a weekly basis. If they receive anything because maybe, say, faculty are more aware of that resource than our office, it immediately comes to our office. Similarly with Human Resource Services, they're providing training to their staff. Anytime that there's a complaint that comes in that might be related to EP15, they're contacting us. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Holly. Next is Rebecca Vandervoort from the, AOI, Academic Outreach and Innovation. So how do we push the PowerPoint now? Our tech support people? It's showing on this screen, but not,
They're getting it.
everybody's getting it?
There it is.
Not from Vancouver, we are not getting it. We see the speaker, but not the PowerPoint.
Do you see it now?
Now we are.
Okay. Rebecca Vandervoort, Assistant Vice President, Academic Outreach and Innovation. What I'm here to talk about today really is just to try and communicate out in as many ways as possible the number of faculty development kinds of opportunities that are available this spring around particularly teaching, which is where my focus is. If you're not familiar, Academic Outreach and Innovation is the home of Global Campus. We also have a conferences and professional ed unit, Learn 365, so summer session, winter session. We offer education 365 days a year, anytime, anywhere. And then our Academic Technology Learning Innovations Unit, which is what I direct within AOI. We do a number of professional development kinds of things around teaching, oftentimes in collaboration with the VetMed Teaching Academy, in collaboration with the Provost's office. So coming up this spring, we are continuing our series of faculty-led workshops, which we've been doing for about 5 years now, and are really, I'll talk about it at the end, but for those of you, I'm sure everyone saw my invite to take the faculty survey around teaching. Faculty-led workshops are the one thing that faculty seem to be most aware of in terms of the number of things that are happening on these campuses, on all of our campuses. But we offer them about once a month. They're always 12:10 to 1 o'clock. They're always in Q, oh, I didn't put the room. I think it's Q512 or 518. It's up there on the 5th floor. And then we've started having an optional post discussion from 1 to 1:30. So if people want to talk about what the presenters have done and how they might do that in their class, we have a group of instructional designers, and the presenters usually stay as well. So as you can see, in February, we have Produce, Learn, Achieve. We've got, I didn't put the names on here. Sort of planning a personal success plan related to how you're teaching. March 12th, motivating students to be interested and prepared, and then April 8th, connecting with students. And then we follow up those second 2 workshops with a create and apply. So again, it's an opportunity to 2 weeks after, come with some ideas you might have heard at the presentation. Now, how am I going to do this in my class? And really take some time to do some implementation. So I want to bring your awareness to this series, as well as our 3rd annual Teaching Innovation Day, which is on February 17th, which is President's Day. So y'all know you don't have to teach that day, but you are invited to come learn more about teaching. And the idea is small changes, big impact. And again, this is all faculty-led. So we have a number of workshops. They'll all be relatively short, and then some time for conversation after about how do I really do this. I sent the flyers to Greg, so I think they're attached. So you have access to all of them. I've also sent them out to all chairs and directors, so they should have them. So we're just really trying to get this word out to faculty. We're also starting new this spring, a community of practice using the books, How Learning Works. And really this idea goes to Steve Hines and VetMed. We're just trying to make it a little bit bigger. So one of the folks that works for me, Valerie Chief, and she's our emerging technologist, and she also teaches math, and she talks about how she stands up in front of the classroom and things will just come to her like, how do I get those students really better engaged, or why are those frowny faces all happening? And so having those kinds of conversations with your peers, and then using the research to help sort of understand what's happening and how to more positively impact student learning. We're also going to try and start a second community of practice, but that will start with a workshop, a 2-hour workshop on inclusive pedagogy with Jamie Nolan out of Student Affairs. I don't know if it's Student Affairs or Student Services.
Student affairs.
Student Affairs. So she's doing a workshop with a couple of other folks on how to design an inclusive course, and then from that, if that group is interested in continuing the conversation, we'll get a community of practice going around that. So I did mention the survey. We sent it out on behalf of Faculty Senate, the Provost's office, and my office, and we had 824 responses, so that's a 30.6% response rate. I was pretty excited about that. I'm just now getting to look at all the data. We just closed it Wednesday. But I think there will be some things. My plan is we will be able to use this information, Laura and I, to sit down and plan out what are faculty needing, what kinds of workshops and trainings do they want, what are the topics, and who are the faculty who can help us do that, and get a plan going for the next year or two as well. That's really, we've done a lot in the past. It's been more what I call throwing the spaghetti on the wall and kind of hoping it sticks, but this will really be faculty driven. This is what they're asking for. And I think just the size of the response rate is exciting. The other, I don't know if you had any questions, if you remembered anything about that survey, but I will write up a summary of an executive summary and provide that to Greg so he can share it with this group. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is one of the things we asked about on here is awareness of the course materials, values, and cost effectiveness group, whatever that is, that Matt and I co-lead for the Provost's Office and Faculty Senate. And I was pleased to see that about half of the faculty respondents were aware of that group. 66% indicated an interest in learning more about open educational resources, but only 20% are aware of the affordable learning grants that we've been able to grant the last 2 years. So the Provost's Office has allocated again this year $50,000 for us to grant out to faculty who are interested in creating free digital resources to replace costly textbooks. The call for proposals should be live about February 1st and will be on the Provost site, and applications are due by March 23rd, and then we'll have a committee go through. We've got everything from, I just want to kind of explore what's out there and maybe adopt something. I can't totally replace my text, to I want to spend the next year writing a textbook for my class. So there's a lot of range in that. So those were the things I wanted to make you aware of. Any questions? All right. Owen. Yeah.
So I've worked on committees now with Rebecca for probably about 5 years, and she's a kind of a quiet leader. She has made innumerable improvements to WSU, oftentimes working, sometimes I would say faculty are not very easy to work with, and she just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing us forward and making us better, and has I think probably a really good understanding of the system, whatever that means. And she told me recently that she's going to retire at the end of this term. And that is sad to me because so many of my valued colleagues are retiring. And I don't know whether you're going to speak before Senate, but I just want to give you a round of applause for all the work that you've done. All right, so we now have our quorum flag, if you've noticed that. So we have achieved quorum. And I will, yes, I will now, that's what we're working on for next year since Dave doesn't text. So I'll call the meeting to order. So the first is approval of the minutes of December 5th, 2019. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, the agenda is approved. Announcements. There are a couple of things. The first one is number 3, which is the OER policy. That deals with stuff that Rebecca just spoke of. And we sort of messed up on how we did it last year, so we're fixing it. It went through, but there was no cover memo, so we didn't have any tracking. So that's what number 3 is about. For minor bulletin change number 7, that's no big deal. Number 2, faculty senate elections. We put the webpage, we made the webpage live for the positions of chair-elect and executive secretary. And so we are trying to detail those sorts of job requirements, those sort of position requirements, I should say. And we will be soliciting, probably you'll be getting emails, a lot of emails or phone calls asking you to either nominate or consider running for those offices. Faculty Senate, I've loved my time on Faculty Senate. It has been mind-boggling and eye-opening, so it's a great opportunity. Anyway, I will leave that for you to look at.
Greg, you may want to hold them.
Oh, is it too low? Okay. And I guess I want to say on that note for the other campuses, as I said, I ran Faculty Senate from the Vancouver campus. I chaired the meeting from the Vancouver campus using Zoom. And if we really are a system, then we have to be open to that. So I urge other campuses to think about that as well. We have the technology to make it happen now. Okay, reports. I am going to skip my reports because I've talked enough. Today, Dave Turnbull, our chair-elect, is going to talk about an update on the provost search. And then Steve Hines, you got an email from me earlier today on the tracks and appointments. He's going to talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll get on to the agenda.
Good afternoon. My name is David Turnbull, and as you know, I'm on the search committee for the new provost and executive vice president of Washington State University. Greg asked me to give you a small report this afternoon, so what I can tell you is the committee is scheduled to meet with the search firm in early February. And at that time, Isaacson Miller will present us with information as to who's been nominated so far for this position. When we do get to the interviews, these interviews operate very similar to interviews that you would have in your respective units, in that we're going to ask the candidates questions. And we have to be fairly consistent with those questions that we ask the candidates. And I think it would be extremely important and probably prudent for me to ask you, as Faculty Senate, for input on what questions you think we could, should, and must ask the people who are coming to interview for this job. So feel free to send me questions that we can ask. Anything else?
Is there any more on the timeline, like when the candidates would come to campus?
Well, we're scheduled to conduct interviews the end of March. Those would be off campus. So my feeling on this is that we'll probably have candidates on the campus in April. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hold your questions to your microphone.
So when this was discussed in the Faculty Senate in the fall, there was a question that was answered by saying the position description would actually be created by the time that we brought people to campus, because clearly a problem that we've had is the candidates understanding what this provost position actually is. Has there been progress in that?
Progress in regard to?
Understanding what the provost position actually is.
On the part of the faculty, on the part of the administration?
Frankly.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I just don't-
The question apparently was with Mitzi, that she got here and thought the position was a different position than it actually turned out to be when she got here. I don't know the details of that. The president was not terribly forthcoming about that. But we were told in the fall that some of whatever the problem was would be resolved by the time we had candidates come to campus.
Yes, and I think the answer to that is, and I don't know the name of the committee, but the chair of the Senate refers to it as the EP 29 committee. So there is a committee that I think is addressing the very issue that you brought up there.
And can you bring the floors on the committee?
Hi, I'm Laura Hill, Vice Provost for Faculty Development and Affairs. This is a small working group. Our task was, first of all, to create a problem statement for what are some of the problems that we face in trying to be a single system, and is that really what we want to be. And I believe that question is going to be addressed by chancellors, deans, vice presidents, and a few other people related to the strategic planning in an all-day retreat next week. And the second part of our charge after that discussion is to come up with descriptions, position descriptions, what should be the roles and responsibilities, particularly for the VPs, many of whom don't really have very good job descriptions. And from that, and from the discussions that are going on in, Senate, strategic planning, this small working group, which is called roles and responsibilities, all of those things will be feeding into a good job description for the next provost, as good as it can be. So there's been a lot of work going on to that end, probably since mid-fall. But there are certain questions that kind of need to be answered before a good job description can be created. And so it's in process.
Back here.
This question's for you, Dave. How can a search committee, or I guess the company that's doing the search, be able to already identify candidates if we don't have a job description that's already been laid out?
That question is above my pay grade, so. Do you want to comment?
I have a comment.
Yeah. No.
Because you all know where I stand on this. The comment is it was brought up by our former provost, former provost Montoya, because she looked at the current sort of position description, and there's a paragraph in there that says the position, the duties are under consideration right now. So there's like a caveat in the position description that says this could change, which I think is a problem. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, share questions with Dave that you would like to have provost candidates, and I would like to say internal and external candidates. Okay. And then our next speaker is Steve Hines, who's chair of Faculty Affairs Committee, and he is going to briefly discuss where they're at in the tracks and appointments.
Hi, everybody. As Greg said, I'm Steve Hines. I'm from Vet Med. And I asked, I think everybody knows that last spring, the Faculty Senate passed some significant changes to the faculty manual around faculty appointments, especially tracks and titles, et cetera. It really was a significant change. It took a lot of work by a lot of people to get to that point. But at that time, everybody recognized it was imperfect and was going to need some additional work. It's generated a fair amount of controversy, some parts of it in particular. And so now we're back having heard a lot of that and trying to address what we think are the biggest problems. I want to remind everybody that the point of all this was fairness. The idea to recognize that we have a large contingent of faculty on our campus, like every campus, who are non-tenure track, contribute in very significant ways to our university. And the idea was to recognize that and to reward that and to make it more of a fair system. That has been our values-based all the way through. Doesn't mean we always get it right, but we've been trying. And we're not going to make everybody happy. We also recognize that. What we've done since then is we've done a lot of listening and met with a lot of people, happy and unhappy. We did a large survey, which we got survey from a whole lot of people. And from that, we've identified what we think are the key sticking points. And we tried to address a few of those as best we can. And so what we have now is a new draft of some of those changes, which we put out for your input. We're trying our very best to get it out to as many people as possible so everyone can see it. If you look at the front page of that section, you can see what our goals were, the issues we were trying to address, and also a very brief summary of what the changes are in the manual. What you will see is that there was confusion over some of the terminology, for instance, appointment versus a working title, et cetera. We tried to define those more clearly to give people some peace of mind. There were some concerns about, especially in certain colleges and/or departments, about how appointments versus titles were used. And we've been trying to be very sensitive to that, recognizing it's a very diverse campus. But we've come up, we think, as a compromise solution to make that work for people. So we've done that especially around the teaching and the scholar tracks. And again, we're trying to do the best with what we can. Issues were raised about temporary faculty, the concerns about people being put in these temporary positions for long periods of time with no benefits, et cetera. We've tried to address that by setting a time frame and a minimum FTE. And we didn't really address the postdoc situation quite the way we would like to, but we did have inserted a more significant definition of what a postdoctoral fellow associate is based on the NSF definition. So we've got a variety of things that we tried to do, and now we're asking for people to look at it and say what they think. The Faculty Affairs Committee has been very diligent about this and I think very earnest and sincere listening to people talk. A lot of people put a lot of time and thought into it. We keep coming back to, we're going to work from a values base. We're doing our very best to make it work that way. Am I forgetting anything, Matt or Michael, I need to say?
One quick comment.
Matt is a member of the FIC as well.
So the actual location on the website is the Faculty Manual Project. It's like the second link on the Faculty Senate page, just so you know where things are.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions or explain things if people have anything they'd like to.
Let's just check, let's make sure for a moment. Vancouver, do you guys have any questions? No questions? Anybody from Tri-Cities, Everett? Anybody from Spokane? Questions? Extension? Okay.
Thank you, Steve. What do you envision as the timeline for this coming as a discussion item before this body?
Yeah, the question was about timeline as far as how soon we make this. And we've been asked several times now to try to move this along as quick as possible because departments are making decisions about how to use some of this terminology in these tracks. And but still the limitation is we want to make sure we've got feedback. So I think it will depend a lot on what kind of feedback we get as far as pro and con go. But so far, this has been in front of the deans and the provost council and a variety of other things, and we've started to circulate it among faculty. There's always going to be people, there's been some picking about small things, but in general so far it's been very well received. If that should continue, which is a big prayer, and I think we can move it along pretty quick, but it will depend a lot on what kind of response we get. So we're trying to be sensitive to that. The really limitation is what kind of response we get, what people say to what we have. One of the things that comes up a lot is not a lot of responses that are very emotional, very intense, and those are hard not to react to. We want to hear, we're trying to listen to everything people have said to us. That's not a very good answer, David, but you know, if people mostly seem happy with it, if we get some positive response on this and it looks pretty good and there's not a lot of concerns about it, I think we'll move it through very quickly. Because I think the departments need that and they're asking for that. Most of them are going forward, and we've distributed this out to everyone so they can see it and kind of see where we're headed. Most of the feedback we've had so far is that it aligns pretty well with where they were already headed, and it provides a little bit of fine tuning, which they're finding helpful. Did not expect that silence, but it's welcomed.
I think you've done a very good job at communicating, and I just want to point out the work that Steve and Faculty Affairs and Laura and the Provost Office have done in trying to make sure that we address, and remember we said we were going to make an improvement and it's going to be ongoing. So that's just been probably the largest thing we've done as a body this year for sure. Okay. Additions or changes to the agenda? None? Okay. Action items, or agenda items, action items. Recommendations from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the undergraduate major change bulletin number 6, exhibits T and T1. Casey is here. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed,
Yes.
please say no. Oh, sorry. I know better. All opposed, please say no. Okay, motion passes. Recommendation, action item number 2, recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the revised Rule 72, class attendance and absences, Exhibit U. Casey is here. Discussion. All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. All right. Number 3, recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the undergraduate certificate in water resources science and management to Vancouver, exhibits W and W1. Casey is here. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, recommendation from the Professional Health Sciences Committee to approve the Professional Health Sciences Major Change Bulletin number 2, Exhibit X. And is John here? John is not. Oh, John is there. Okay, sorry, you were hiding. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, recommendation from the Graduate Studies Committee to approve to discontinue the Master of Arts in Hispanic Studies, exhibits Y and Y1. Alex and Umesh are. Alex is here. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, number 5 passes. Last action item, recommendation from the Graduate Studies Committee to approve to discontinue the Master of Nursing Plan, Family Nurse Practitioner and Psychiatric Mental Health, exhibits Z and Z1. Alex is here to discuss. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. All right. Discussion items. Recommendation from the Academic Affairs Committee to approve the revised Rule 83, Accommodations of Disabilities in the Classroom and Administration, Exhibits D. Casey is here. Discussion? Discussion item number 2, recommendation from the Graduate Studies Committee to approve the revised Graduate Certificate in Bioinformatics, Exhibits E and E1. Alex is here. Discussion item number 3, recommendation from the Graduate Studies Committee to approve the revised plan for the MS in Statistics non-thesis, Exhibits F and F1. Alex is here. No discussion. 4, recommendation from the Faculty Senate Steering Committee to approve the revision to the Faculty Senate Constitution. The Faculty Senate Constitution to allow the WSU Faculty Senate, or to allow the WSU Faculty Senate representation from the Honors College, Exhibits G.
I've got a question.
Okay.
This is Shameen from Vancouver. I just wanted to make sure that it's recognized that not all of the campuses have honors colleges. So I don't know how that impacts this discussion or this recommendation.
So the Constitution talks about the representation, and right now the representation is, it lists degree granting colleges, libraries, and campuses. And so all of those units have constituencies in Senate. So this would just be adding honors faculty. So we have faculty who have their sole appointment in honors and are not in a college. So this is just for Faculty Senate representation.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, any other questions on that? So that's kind of a big deal. This year we will have moved Everett in for representation and Honors College in for representation. Number 5, recommendation from the Professional Health Sciences Committee to approve the Professional Health Sciences Major Change Bulletin number 3, and John is here to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, we are now to constituent concerns. Before I take them, I want to say that there were 2 online constituent concerns that revolved around the discussion we had on the provost search and our executive policy and the EP29 and the small working group. And those constituent concerns have been forwarded to, we forwarded those to the co-chairs of the small working group. And they're on the website to view, and you can add to those if you will. So we have done our best to get the message, the concerns out to the group. So Laura, did you want to comment?
There's only a chair.
A chair, that's right, I'm sorry.
So Chip Hunter has them?
Okay, so those concerns went, that's right, those concerns went to AG, because he's on the committee. So it's AG, it's you, AG, Chip.
Teresa and Sandra Haynes.
Yeah, Teresa and Sandra Haynes.
But I haven't received those.
Okay, I'll check with AG. They're on the they're on the chemistry website, and
Okay.
because they dealt with the provost search, Dave forwarded them to the co-chairs, Stacy Pearson and Julie Kamek,
Got it.
for the provost search committee. And David also called the president's office. We have been we have communicated as best we can. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that the 2 that are on the website have been pushed forward. I just don't know how to address that, right? This is the same issue that we get. Other constituent concerns? No? Okay, that was fast. The meeting is adjourned.